But since you were the one person to have met with him, and since this is a thing, you didn't ask him?
I didn't ask him that because I know what his answer is.
Well, right now, 4 more Democrats are on the ground in El Salvador fighting for the release of illegal alien Kilmar Ábrego García. They join Democrat Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen's mission to bring the illegal immigrant back to the U.S. Last week, Van Hollen flew on taxpayer dollars to meet with Ábrego García, but he now claims that the optics of the sit-down were manipulated and that the drinks on the table beside them with salted rims were planted there.
When I first sat down with Kilmar, we just had glasses of water on the table. I think maybe some coffee. And as we were talking, one of the government people came over and deposited 2 other glasses on the table with ice, and I don't know if it was salt or sugar around the top, but they look like margaritas. And if you look at the one they put in front of Kilmar, it actually had a little less liquid than the one in front of me, to try to make it look, I assume, like he drank out of it. Let me just be very clear. Neither of us touched the drinks that were in front of us, but this is a lesson into the lengths that President Bukele will do to deceive people about what's going on.
But Van Hollen went to great lengths to meet with Garcia. And while chatting over drinks, he didn't even ask him about his alleged gang affiliation.
Can you say with absolute certainty that he is not, nor has he ever been, a member of the MS-13 gang? And did you ask him point blank?
Well, Dana, what Donald Trump is trying to do here is change the subject. The subject at hand is that he and his administration are defying a court order to give Ábrego García his due process rights.
But since you were the one person to have met with him, and since this is a thing, you say on social media, it's what we hear from Donald Trump and Republicans every day, all day long, you didn't ask him?
I didn't ask him that because I know what his answer is.
And as we learn more about Ábrego Garcia's background, Van Hollen now says, oh, he's not defending the Maryland father. He's defending his rights.
I want to be very clear. I'm not vouching for the man. I'm vouching for the man's rights, his constitutional rights to due process.
Oh, Paul, what a noble cause. And interestingly, a tune change from that senator, because he wasn't talking about rights before.
Yeah, exactly. So let me clarify something for the senator. Ábrego García got picked up with other MS-13 members wearing the gang tats and their colors. Trust me when I tell you, speaking from some experience, you don't walk around with a gang wearing their colors and tats if you're not a member of that gang. It's not a healthy lifestyle choice. So that said, he doesn't ask the salient question. Look, he is the embodiment of something that Vladimir Lenin used to talk about as the architect of the Soviet Union, a useful idiot, all right? Somebody who's essentially being weaponized by our opposition in this case being gangs, MS-13, the Mexican cartels, Tren de Aragua. We're dealing with that problem. He goes over to the other side. That's why he's trying to walk it back. It is preposterous. Next move we're going to see is MS-13 getting Chris Van Hollen tattoos.
Oh, my God.
And, you know, not for nothing, but it's always women. He's right. It's on record that he beat his wife up a couple of times. These guys come in, they abuse women. Where is the left for that? You don't hear about it. And as far as due process goes, how are we going to give full due process to 10 to 12 million unvetted illegals? Where's your answer for that, pal?
Ironically, I remember covering the brutal death at the hands of MS-13, someone who had just pretended to be one of them. He was beaten with a shotgun, he was suffocated with a plastic bag, and then shot to death.
My point.
Indeed, there are consequences for pretending. Riley, first of all, happy birthday, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you. At the age of 25.
25, oh my gosh. So tell us your thoughts on this and politically how this bodes for the Democrats.
Well, I mean, truthfully, given what has really allowed me to have the platform that I have, the issue of allowing men into women's sports. I mean, I sit back and watch these things, whether it's this, whether it's the men and women's sports, whether it's putting tampons in boys' bathrooms, whether it's referring to Latino individuals as Latinx. I mean, they have just continually, time and time and time again, proven themselves to be so out of touch with the reality that everyday Americans face. And that's what this is too. So, and I think important thing here too, Chris Van Hollen, his constituent was Rachel Morin. He didn't attend her funeral. He didn't call Patty Morin. None of that. No, instead he flew 3,000 miles to El Salvador to now meet with this allegedly illegal gang member. So not overly shocked. I wish I could say I was shocked, but none of this stuff really surprises me anymore.
And Carly, the irony is those individuals standing with Senator Van Hollen were wearing buttons that said, "Keep the family together."
Yeah.
And I recall that as you talk about the Morin family, who will never be together again.
Never will be together, permanently separated. And that is something that should deeply be remembered in this moment. I also think that we're looking at yet another massive media cover-up with this story, because 90% of the articles that you read online are reporting that's been done in this story either doesn't have the details on the two judges who have claimed that he is a member of MS-13 and that he has abused his wife according to his wife, or they're buried deep down, not in the headline at all. They're still calling him a Maryland father. I am staggered at the fact that after we had a presidential election that was decided in part on illegal immigration and safety, that somebody like Senator Chris Van Hollen and now 4 more Democrats are going over to El Salvador to try and get an alleged gang member back into the country.
So
and the messaging has been all over the place. First, he's a Maryland father, and now you have the senator saying, well, I'm not going to vouch for his character. Really, that's what this whole thing was about. And he also said on Fox News Sunday that he didn't even ask Ábrego García when they sat down together if he's a member of a gang. That's an important question. When you're crossing your fingers hoping this guy will be yet again another one of your constituents, don't you want to know if he actually is a gang member? He probably didn't ask because he didn't want to know the answer. I thought that Fox News Sunday interview did him no favors.
He said he knew what he would say. He said he did know.
So
and of course he knows. We all know. Because not only did those courts find him guilty of being in a gang, he said, you can't send me back to El Salvador because of the rival gangs I'll be killed by. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Look, I think a couple of things about this. One, is this the beginning or the end of Van Hollen's career, and does anybody care? The other thing is this. With all that has happened with these individuals, if one of them, if one of these Democratic lawmakers is successful and for their end, bringing that individual back into the country and he commits a violent crime, can we put the lawmaker behind bars this time too for being
charge
complicit?
conspiracy.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't think they've gamed this out. And where are the people in the streets saying, yeah, this is our guy? You know where they are? They're feeding their families. They're working. They got here the right way. Yeah. They're working. They're trying to come up. They don't want a gang member from a country they left coming into their home of the United States of America. We're talking about illegal immigration here. That in itself is a crime, and then he compounds it.
Yeah, that's right. And the convictions, you know, he wasn't convicted on the gang membership, but to your point, there were procedural elements and there were findings within the decisions, which is why DHS and the police were alleging such. Right. Obviously, there's enough gray area for the senator and many more to take this up, but I wish they would take up representation of their constituents.